All right, let's get into it. We are about to unpack a story of greed, Hollywood glamour, and a financial fraud so audacious it almost feels like a movie. This is the 1MDB scandal.
I mean, seriously, this is the question at the heart of it all. It sounds absolutely wild, right? How does one guy, with no real power or position, get a world leader and one of the biggest banks on earth to help him steal billions? That's the puzzle we're going to solve today.
And let's be crystal clear about the numbers here. We are talking about $4.5 billion. This wasn't just some creative accounting. This was the wholesale looting of a country's wealth. To understand how it even happened, we have to start in the most bizarre place imaginable.
That's right. It all kicks off in Hollywood. We're about to see how a film that was literally about financial crime was, in a twist of unbelievable irony, paid for with money from a real financial crime.
You heard that correctly. The movie The Wolf of Wall Street was funded by a company called Red Granite Pictures. And who co-founded it? The stepson of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. The money trail literally started on the red carpet, hiding in plain sight.
Okay, but behind the Prime Minister's family and all the Hollywood glitz, there was the real puppet master of this whole scheme. A guy who held no official job, no title, and who seemed to materialize out of thin air.
So first, what even was 1MDB? Well, on paper, it was a sovereign wealth fund, basically a government-owned investment company. Its whole mission was supposed to be a noble one: fund massive development projects to help the people of Malaysia. It was meant to build the country's future.
Instead, it became the personal piggy bank for this guy, Jho Low. A graduate of the Wharton school, Low was brilliant at creating a persona. He pretended to be this billionaire dealmaker, and he played the part so well that he got himself embedded with the Prime Minister, with Middle Eastern royalty, with elites all over the world, convincing them all he was the key to unlocking huge deals.
So how did he do it? How do you turn a national fund into your own personal slush fund? Well, the blueprint for the whole heist was both incredibly complex and, at its core, deceptively simple.
The whole plan really boils down to 3 steps. First, 1MDB raises billions of dollars by selling bonds with the help of Goldman Sachs. Next, as soon as that cash hits the account, huge portions of it are immediately wired to a web of offshore shell companies that Jho Low controls. And finally, that stolen money is laundered by buying the most absurdly expensive luxury items you can imagine.
Now, one of the most brilliant parts of the whole scam was its simplicity. It was like a magic trick. They created fake companies with names that were almost identical to real legitimate firms. So for example, money that was supposed to go to a real company called Aabar Investments PJS was instead sent to a fake shell company in the British Virgin Islands called Aabar Investments PJS Limited. That one little word, limited, was the key to stealing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Now look, you can't pull off a heist this big on your own. You need powerful friends. And Goldman Sachs played a huge role. The bank made hundreds of millions in fees for handling these 1MDB deals, and according to investigators, key bankers just ignored massive red flags to get the deals done. They called it a pay-to-play culture. The potential payday was just too big to ignore.
So where did all this stolen money actually end up? It wasn't put in a vault somewhere. It was spent, and it was spent in the most public, lavish way possible, funding a lifestyle that would make the real Wolf of Wall Street jealous.
The audacity is just stunning. We are talking about a $250 million super yacht, a private jet. They even bought multi-million-dollar paintings by Picasso and Monet and then just gave them away as gifts to Leonardo DiCaprio. They threw these legendary parties with celebrities. This wasn't just theft, it was a public performance, all paid for with money stolen from the Malaysian people.
And here it is, the smoking gun. Of the billions that were stolen, investigators managed to trace this amount, $681 million, directly into the personal bank accounts of the Prime Minister of Malaysia himself, Najib Razak. The man at the very top was getting paid. You know, when a party is that big and a theft is that brazen, it can't stay a secret forever. Eventually, people started pulling on the threads, and the entire scheme began to come crashing down.
It all really kicked off thanks to some amazing investigative work by journalists at the Sarawak Report and the Wall Street Journal. Their articles set off a global firestorm. Soon, investigations were launched everywhere, from Switzerland to the U.S. Department of Justice. It created this cascade of asset seizures and arrests, and it ultimately led to the complete political collapse of Prime Minister Najib Razak's government.
And for their part in all of this, Goldman Sachs got hit with a massive punishment. The bank had to pay a $2.9 billion settlement to the U.S. Department of Justice. It was one of the largest penalties ever for this kind of corruption.
So, after the collapse, after the record fines, and all the political chaos, where do things actually stand today? Who paid a price, and who didn't?
So let's look at the final tally. The former Prime Minister, Najib Razak, he was arrested, he was convicted, and he is now serving time in a Malaysian prison. Goldman Sachs paid that enormous fine, and the U.S. has actually managed to seize and return over $1 billion in stolen assets.
But the architect, the mastermind who dreamed this all up, Jho Low, he has never faced a courtroom. He is still one of the world's most wanted white-collar criminals, an international fugitive who's believed to be hiding out in China just beyond the law's reach.
And that really leaves us with this final big question. Sure, some people are in jail and some of the money was returned, but does a giant fine paid by a bank truly amount to justice for an entire nation whose future was effectively stolen? That's a question worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.